Welcome to the Friday Night Campfire Stories. My name is Rob and I will be your host for this evening. So, if you're new to this channel, I am a short story writer, and every single Friday we cover a chapter from one of those stories. As a way to keep our weeks creepy throughout, I made a few series that we post throughout the week. Every single Wednesday we cover a brand new true crime story, because you see, my stories, they may be scary or creepy or eerie, but they're not real. The true terrors lie in everyday lives and happen to people just like you and me. So I'd like to welcome you to my series, Far From Fiction. In this episode, we go to another unsettling journey into the dark shadows of true crime. Today, we're diving into one of Germany's most infamous unsolved cases, the Hinterkaifeck murders. A family farm turned to a site of horror, an unknown killer lurking in the attic, and a mystery that remains unsolved over a century later. Let's step back in time to 1922 and uncover the chilling story of the Gruber family. Hinterkaifeck was a small, isolated farmstead located in Bavaria, Germany, built in 1863, about 43 miles away from Munich. Here lived Andreas Gruber, 63, his wife Cecilia, 72, their widowed daughter Victoria, who was 35, and her two children, 7-year-old Cecilia and 2-year-old Joseph. The family lived in a modest, quiet life, but what happened to them on a cold March night would haunt the village forever. 6 months before the events took place, Andreas Gruber noticed something strange. A newspaper appeared on his doorstep that no one in the family subscribed to. Then, just days before the tragedy, Andreas found mysterious footprints in the snow leading from the woods nearby straight to their home. But there were no footprints going back. Even more unsettling, Andreas reported strange noises from the attic, but when he searched, he found nothing. Could these have been the warnings of a horror to come? Their maid even quit 6 months prior to the murders because she had heard noises coming from the attic and believed the house was haunted. On April 4th, 1922, neighbors worried after not seeing their family for a few days, and they decided to investigate. What they found would shake the village to its core. Inside the barn, the body of Andreas, Cecilia, Victoria, young Cecilia, were discovered, stacked atop of one another, brutally bludgeoned. Inside the house, the nightmares continued. Little Joseph was found murdered in his crib, and the family maid, who just started working there the day before, lay dead in her bed. The maid, named Maria, had been escorted to the farm by her sister, who was the last known person to see the family alive. From what the investigators can see, the family was lured into the barn area late one evening by something. What exactly is unknown, but they were brought to the barn and murdered one by one with a pickaxe that was used on the farm. The killer then went into the house and murdered the maid and the toddler, Joseph, who was laying in his crib. The first few days after the murders, people began to wonder what happened to the family. Coffee sellers arrived at their house to get the family's orders, but there was no one there to answer. Cecilia was absent from school, and 2 of the other students went to check on the family but found nothing. Even a mechanic went to fix an engine and did not see signs of the family, only the sounds of the farm animals. It wasn't until the father of the boys, who went to see if the family was okay, went to check with their other friends. They had discovered the families lying dead in the barn. The weapon, a pickaxe. Each family member had suffered a brutal head injury, but the details were even more disturbing. It appeared that little Cecilia had survived the initial attack and laid beside her family, pulling out her own hair in shock and agony before finally succumbing to her injuries. As investigators scoured the crime scene, they found clues that would only deepen the mystery. Whoever had murdered the family stayed in the farmhouse for several days afterwards. They cooked meals, tended to livestock, and even kept the family's dog fed. This wasn't just a murder, it was something far darker, as if the killer had become part of the family. What made this very strange, though, is the days leading up to the finding of the family, people had seen figures walking around the house and the property. One person had passed by the night after the murders, and 3 days prior to the families being discovered. They saw the oven was being heated by someone. That person would walk up to them with a lantern, blinding them and making it so they were unable to see. Scared of what would come next, the passerby would continue his walk. Then on another night, a butcher on his way home from work had seen two mysterious figures on the edge of the woods by the farm. When the butcher looked closer, the figures turned so they could not see their faces. But who could have committed such an atrocity? Over the years, the case has spawned countless theories. Some believe it was a revenge killing tied to the family's complex relationships. Others think maybe it was just a drifter, maybe someone who saw the family's isolation as an opportunity. With each theory comes a dead end, and despite recent DNA testing, no conclusive evidence was surfaced to this day. This case remains as cold as the winter night when those footprints first appeared in the snow. But let's look at the possible suspects of this crime and see if we can come up with any theories on who killed this family. First suspect on our list is Lorenz Schlittenbauer. He was a resident of the village and believed to be a lover of Victoria. He was the one who went with his friends to find the bodies, and when he arrived on the scene, he started acting very suspicious. When he arrived, he had to break the gate to the barn because the doors to the house were locked. After discovering the bodies, he went and unlocked the front door with a key that he had on him, a key that had gone missing several days prior to the murders. He went into the house by himself and had apparently picked up Joseph, who he believed was his son. This would mess up evidence as the investigators would not be able to see the scene of the crime as it was left. Lorenz was a suspect but never convicted of his crime. Even after a few years after the house was torn down, he was seen looking at the land by a neighbor, and he had said that the killer's attempts to bury the family's remains had been hindered by the frozen ground. There is no doubt that he is high on my list of possible suspects. There's also a theory that Victoria had admitted that Joseph was his son and wanted him to start paying child support. However, I think there are some things in the story that lead me to say it wasn't him. First of all, whoever killed the family lived in the house. Yes, he was Victoria's lover, but why would he be staying in the attic when he has a house of his own? Also, there's the thought of him having the key. That could have been because he was Victoria's lover, but also it could have been the fact that he was a neighbor. And why would he have left the barn locked if he was just going to have to break in later on? No matter what, Lorenz did act suspicious and is definitely on the top of my candidates for the killer. Another theory is that it was one Carl Gabriel. This was the husband of Victoria, who died in World War I, which was years prior to the murders taking place in the home. However, his body was never recovered, and people believe that he was still alive and had still went back to live with Victoria and her family. This was stirred up by Victoria, though, who had said that by miraculous conception, she was pregnant with Carl's baby, even years after he had died. This seemed crazy, but it sounded more to me like it was a cover-up for Victoria. You see, the town was quite aware that Joseph was not Carl's baby. They didn't even think it was Lorenz's baby, but Andreas, her father's baby. Andreas had raped Victoria and conceived Joseph. This was actually documented in court. So, yeah, I don't believe that it was really Carl that was a part of it. It seems like I said, it more of just a cover-up than anything. The next theory is of Paul Mueller. You may have actually heard of this name if you're into true crime. He is the man on the train. Originally from Germany, he had left to go to America. He's suspected to be one of the biggest serial killers of all time. He is a suspect for the Villisca Axe murder house and the West Brookfield, Massachusetts family murder in the late 1800s. It has been suspected that he has killed no less than 50 people and possibly over 100. It is reported that after 1912, after the Villisca Axe murder house, he wanted to go back to his homeland. It is possible that he achieved the mission, but the killings didn't stop in America. Could he have been the man who killed the Gruber family? There's a lot of similarities between the Villisca Axe murder house, the West Brookfield murders, and the Hinterkaifeck. He stalked the families while being in their house. He wiped out the entire family and used sharp, blunt objects. The cases do seem to line up, and I wouldn't rule out Paul Mueller being a suspect in this either. Although it's unknown if he ever made it back to Germany, so this may be a little bit of a stretch, but it's not entirely impossible. Next up is the Gump Bros. Not Forrest, thankfully, but Adolf and Anton. Adolf had apparently been tied to Freikorps Oberlin. Probably didn't pronounce that right. which was a paramilitary group that fought against the communists in Poland. He participated in the 9 murders of farmers during the Polish uprising. The only piece that connects them to this case was actually his sister, who admitted on her deathbed that her brothers had killed the family. Anton was actually arrested for this. However, Adolf had died a few years prior to this confession. I thought this could be a clue because remember what the butcher had said earlier. When he was walking home from work, he noticed he saw 2 figures standing on the edge of the forest on his way home. So it is very possible that there were 2 killers. However, Anton was dismissed after they felt like he didn't have anything to do with the murders. This is a possible theory still, but I don't think it's really a good one. But the 2 killer ideas does bring up a possible explanation. This is when I stumbled upon the Beichler brothers. The former maid of the Gruber family had stated in court that Anton and Karl Beichler were the ones who murdered the family. Anton was a former potato farmer for the family during the harvest the year prior. During his time there, he had told the maid that he thought that the family ought to be dead. She also noted the family's dog barked at everyone who showed up to the house. The dog would bark at the mom, the dad, the daughter, her kids, the maid, everyone, except for Anton. They never barked at Anton. This could have made it very easy for him to get in the house without anybody noticing. The maid also noted something a little strange that I found, that she would have conversations through her window with a stranger who was believed to be Karl, Anton's brother. So with Anton stating that he thought that the family should be dead, and with the knowledge of the wealth that the Gruber family had, this seems like this could be a very well possibility for who the killers are. It's also possible that there was another person involved whose name was George, who had broken into the house a year prior and stolen valuables from the family, and they also went undetected. Could he have also helped them get into the house? If I had to make my best possible theory, I would say it's the Beichler brothers, or possibly Lorenz. But as always, these are just theories, and we can't say for sure who did the crime. The Hinterkaifeck murders remain one of Germany's oldest unsolved cases. The farmhouse itself was torn down a year after the murders, but the story lives on. A haunting reminder of what true horror can be. Who was the killer? Why did they not only take the lives of the Gruber family, but also linger on the family's farm as if they belonged? And now, over 100 years later, the Hinterkaifeck murders still chill those who hear about them. What do you think happened that night? Do you have a theory about who might have committed the murders? Let me know in the comments below. So that is going to do it for today. I hope that you guys did enjoy. If you did, be sure to click that like button, hit that subscribe button. We make videos 3 times a week. Every Monday we do an episode of Echoes of the Past where we do our research and look at the history of haunted locations all around the world. Every Wednesday we do another episode of Far From Fiction, which is what we did today. Also let me know in the comments any cases that you want me to cover in the future. I'll gladly explore them. And of course, every single Friday, we do an episode of the Friday Night Campfire Stories, where we experience one chapter from one of my short stories. Also, I want to make the announcement that my book, Whispers in the Shadows, is available for purchase now on Amazon. You can get the physical edition, you can get the e-reader edition. Both of them will be in the link in the description, so if you have any interest, please check it out. If you want to help out a small content creator slash short story author, it would mean a lot to me. That is going to do it. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and as always, thank you for spending a little bit of your day here with me.